everybody, happy Wax on Wednesdays. Today I'm working with some ceramic tile and I've glued some heavyweight Arches watercolor paper down to each tile with a PVA bookbinder's glue, which is archival. And you can see here I'm adding very thin layers of white encaustic paint to these, and I add about 3 or 4 layers and build up that so I have a nice base for my exercise. And here I have my palette that I'll be working on, and this is just some freezer paper wrapped around a book, and I have some pigment sticks here, and my whole point of this exercise today is to explore color, because you don't have to use the pigment sticks or the oil sticks straight out of the stick and just use the colors that are there. You can create them just like you do with oil paint and just put them on a palette and use a palette knife or use your finger like I am here and create some really unique and fun colors. My favorite parts about an exercise like this is creating the creation of all of these colors on the palette and just exploring the combinations and exploring the palette that I'm going to use for that day. And of course, every day is different. Every morning when I come into the studio, I can get a completely different palette depending on the mood that you're in. And it's just a really fun exploration and a fun warm-up when you come into the studio. And I'm working on some very loose florals with this palette, and again using my finger, because finger painting for me keeps me very loose. So it's keeping me loose, it's physically impossible for me to get incredibly detailed with by using my finger. I do find that when I'm using my gloved finger, it does create an interesting texture to the piece, either a landscape or a floral. It does create some fun texture, but it is impossible to get incredibly detailed using your finger without a brush in your hand. So these are very loose. It's keeping me focused on the task at hand, which is exploring this color and how these colors go together on the palette. And every time I add a layer of pigment, I'm fusing it in with my heat gun and making sure that everything is fused in just till it comes to a shine or a glisten. And this is a sped up video, but I'm still working pretty quickly here between 4 different pieces. So I'm going back and forth between each piece really quickly, changing it out, keeping it flowing, keeping it going without having to stop and think about it or get stuck in one area. If I start to feel like I'm getting stuck, then I'll switch off to the next piece very quickly, and this also helps keep it flowing, helps keep it loose, and helps keep you working intuitively from within and not really, again, focusing on the details. Also, for these 4 pieces, I changed it up a little bit on the backgrounds, and that also was fun in exploring this color palette, is seeing how it looked on all 4 different backgrounds. So I have a white background, I have a sort of light rose background, sort of a dark creamy background, and then on this last piece I'm taking white background and adding a dark blue pan pastel, and this is going to add a beautiful dark background, and I simply add the color with the applicator and then fuse it into the surface and then set it aside for a minute, let it set up, and then I can go ahead and use those oil sticks right on top. So it's just a fun way to explore the exact same palette on 4 different backgrounds and see how those palettes look on, say, using the same exact palette but on a different colored background, and seeing the different effects that has. And if you'd like to see the exact colors or this exact palette that I used today or any of the supplies, you can always look on the blog post for the video that week on sherryreplogle.com, and I will list all the supplies that I'm using for each video. And if you've been watching Wax on Wednesdays for a while or taken any of my workshops, you'll know that I'm really big on warm-ups and coming in and really just getting in there and painting. When there's only so much time in the day to paint or create, and we finally get into that creative space, and so oftentimes it's overwhelming because you've got this ominous board or canvas staring at you, white blank space, or perhaps a half-done piece that you're not sure what step to take next. And these warm-ups, coming in and just doing a warm-up and just beginning, it's a way to begin, and it's a way to explore, have fun. There is no right, there is no wrong, because it's all discovery, and there's a purpose to everything, and there's no mistakes, there's no wrong move to make. It's just getting in there and exploring. And no matter what, you're learning something. You're expressing, you're learning, you're creating, and you're painting. And so oftentimes with that limited amount of time that we have, we build up all these expectations and then get into our creative space and get stunted by these either empty or half painted boards of what to do next. We were waiting so long, and that anticipation of getting into your creative space, and once you get in there, just kind of being stumped or overwhelmed. And these warm-ups can help you explore paint, can help you explore color, can help you explore yourself, can help you explore your mood. There's just an endless amount of benefits to coming in and just doing some warm-ups without any pressure on you when you come into your creative space, and just have them already set up and ready to go. These are the warm-ups I'm going to do this week. And this one is really fun because you can actually create a different color palette every single day of the week. So it's kind of fun to do a warm up like this for an entire week. Do it for an entire 5 days, 7 days, and see what palette you create every single day. When you come into the studio every single day, create a new palette and then compare it throughout the week and see what you created. Did you have a sort of really bright colors one day and some more darker muted colors the next? See what color, it's fun to just get that sheet, that palette out at the end of the week and look at the way your palette changed and developed throughout the week. And that's another really fun way to kind of reflect back on your process. And if you'd like to continue creating in these fun warm-ups, then Moving the Paint in You online workshop has a different exercise each and every day, a different warm-up to help you get loose and create in acrylic and encaustic and inks and watercolors and all sorts of different mediums, and with a different exercise each day, start to finish, and also help to develop a plan when you come into your studio each week. Have those exercises ready. It's a super fun way to get fluid and get working in each and every day in your studio. And there's a link to that course directly below the video in the description box. And there's also a 20% discount coupon code in the description box below for that course for this week. So it's a fun thing to get started with the new year. If you want to get started with a bunch of fun warm-ups in your creative space, then this course has a ton of exercises and tips and tricks to get you started for the new year and jump in there and just start creating when you enter your creative space. So here I have taken a Q-tip, and I'm not going to take a brush ever, but the Q-tip still has had a little bit more detail, but still keeps it really loose. Again, hard to get some detail when you're using a Q-tip, especially with the oil stick, but it does allow for just a little bit of refining of those flowers just slightly. And so this is another fun tool. It's fun to grab tools that are not necessarily what you would think of. It's fun to just kind of look around and see what you can use that normally wouldn't be used to create a mark. And that is another fun way to go about it. It's a challenge to try and create a flower with your finger or a flower with the Q-tip. So it keeps your brain in that intuitive frame of mind and coming from a place of expression rather than a place of focusing on a lot of the details. And another great thing about doing the exercise in this way is that it's really inexpensive. The ceramic tile is super cheap at the home improvement store. The Arches watercolor paper you're just using a very, very small amount. These are 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So you're using a very small square of that Arches watercolor paper, which can be expensive. Again, the oil paint sticks can be really expensive, but you're using, as well as the encaustic medium, but you're using such a small amount on these very small pieces. The oil stick, you're using a very small amount. So these exercises, you can do so many of them for just a few cents each. And that also, it also helps with the creating, because if you have a really expensive board, sometimes those panels, even the small panels, can be quite pricey just to do, a practice on. So this is a really fun way to do, to free yourself up to create with encaustic inexpensively and just really give yourself the freedom to create. So here are all the colors that were created today on these 4 pieces, and I hope that you really enjoyed this week's Wax on Wednesdays little warm-up exercise, and we will see you next week. Happy Wax on Wednesdays!